Hello again, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 50. I am your gracious host, Dan, joined by my bestest pal, Anthony. And we're going to talk about some video game stuff again.
Oh yeah.
It's been a big week, though, so we have stuff and things to talk about, so that's good. It's been an eventful week. Um, well, just like every other week, we're going to start off by talking about what we've been playing and
Hmm.
kind of see where see where it takes us from there. I think I'm just going to go out and say that we are going to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 at
Oh
like
yeah.
the last thing
Hmm.
of this episode. So, just some warning there. Um, I think I'm gonna go first
Go for
because
it.
I haven't like it's I have been playing stuff this week, but it's not like a huge expansive list like some weeks that I have. Um, so I've still been like playing the finals once a day just to get like daily contracts done and level up the battle pass and like the sponsorship, which is like a different reward track and uh just to unlock more of the equipment because it does take a while to get the currency that you need to get the equipment for every character. They all take the same currency, but you only get like on average 100 of these of the currency per match. So like when something costs 1800 or 2200, you have to play like 22 games or 18 games to get the amount of currency you need to unlock the item that you want.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while. So I I've been doing that lately. It's still fun. Like I'm not having a bad time. There are some games where I'm just like, this is fucking stupid, but um, more often than not, I am enjoying my time with the finals still. Uh, and yeah, had nothing but good things to say about that game. So I think people should definitely check it out. I've been cracking on more in Mass Effect 3 as well. I finally cured the genophage and continued on with the first act of the game. Like I've been saying over the past couple of weeks, I am taking my sweet time with the Mass Effect trilogy. So I'm going around doing everything and trying to get the best endings. So that's another thing I've been playing. I play a little bit of Destiny just to like do the weekly story content and unlock uh, the new exotic to like its fullest potential because it's time gated now, which is dumb. But like you have to jump through so many hoops to get the unlocks. Um, what else? What else? What else? Path of Exile 2 just launched a new season where they released a new character, so that was free. That was cool. I've been playing a little bit of that. And Space Marine 2, I jumped back in and started playing some of the operations again because the next update is supposed to add a bunch of new shit. So I just wanted to refamiliarize myself. And I watched the secret level episode for Warhammer recently. I'm like, I really want to play Space Marine now. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I mean that's good enough as long as you keep carrying on with what you're playing. Eventually, you'll start branching out
yeah,
again some more. But I mean, you dove headfirst into like a new fixation with the finals and
I know.
a
Yeah.
lengthy trilogy with Mass Effect. So as long as you're making
I'm
headway
almost
with
done
that,
with the
yeah,
trilogy,
no,
and
yeah,
so
you're getting
after
there.
Mass Effect 3, I'm gonna play through Andromeda, and then
Yeah, you
after
mentioned that.
Andromeda, I'm gonna play through Ghost of Tsushima because I haven't even touched that on PC yet, and I got that like a few weeks ago. Um, but yeah, I got like a plan of like games that I either haven't played or haven't played in a long time. I've only played through Andromeda once, and that was when it came out. So I'm very curious to see what my opinions are gonna be coming back to it. Like, I don't know. It's been what, 10 years, something like that. It's been a long, long time.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm very curious to see what I think about Andromeda when I go back to it and play through it again. Actually, I'm very curious. How long ago did it come out? Store page came out in 2017. All right, it's not quite 10 years, but it's still
Okay.
like a very long time. Anywho, what have you been playing, Anthony?
Okay. I haven't really gotten a chance to play any more Assassin's Creed. I've pretty much slowed completely with that just because there's a certain pacing issue I can't do. It's not bad. It's just need to be in a certain mindset. It's not. It didn't drag me down like the other RPG Assassin's Creed games, like I mentioned before.
Mhm.
Um, so most of my time has gone to two games in particular. I will note right off the bat that I haven't really played any fighting games or gacha games this week just because I've been too busy.
Really?
And yeah, when it comes to the gacha stuff, it's like I kind of cleared out the events that I need to, and there's not much for me to grind to, so it's like, oh, let me put that aside and do some other stuff. And with fighting games, I haven't felt the urge to really play any ranked. It's kind of a content lull in the games I've been playing, and the only other time I play, as you know, is with Harrison, and he fucked up his hand at work, so he hasn't been playing fighting games with me. So all of my time has been going to watching some of my buddies play games. Like I've been watching them play Devil May Cry. I've been watching them play one of my favorite games of all time, Final Fantasy IX. But for me, I mentioned this last week, but I doubled down more than I thought I would. I've been playing Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. Last week I mentioned I'm just like, I'm not going to go too hard, I just kind of want to relax after grinding Kingdom Hearts 1, and then I immediately reneged on that. I am currently doing 3 playthroughs of Chain of Memories on different difficulties, and I am currently doing 2 playthroughs of Kingdom Hearts 2 on different difficulties, including the hardest difficulties in both games, just because Chain of Memories, we're going back to record something for the channel, which after both Luke and Harrison said they didn't want to do it, they're back watching me play it, so whatever. There's another playthrough where I'm showing a buddy of mine the game because he likes the card mechanics, and then there's one I'm doing just for me, which is the highest difficulty, so I've been jumping between those. And for Kingdom Hearts 2, I have a playthrough where I'm showing somebody the game, and then I have another one where I'm just doing the hardest difficulty, so it's just been Kingdom Hearts all week when I'm not working on something, right?
That's so much to do at one time.
It is, but like it's really reminding me how much I love these games. It is a really solid series overall. I do kind of view some of the content as far as how they handle Disney and Final Fantasy, and I kind of like view it in a different light just because I critique it a little bit differently. But the gameplay itself is satisfying and fun. So that's pretty much
can't complain
all
there.
Yeah, but what I will tell you. And this will kind of get us off the topic of what we've been playing.
Oh boy.
Is I did a lot of watching this week, honestly. But it's the relevant kind of watching. I watched the Devil May Cry Netflix series.
All of it?
All of it.
Oh man. Okay, here comes Anthony. Right? Let me have it.
I will note that I also saw the first episode of the Guilty Gear Strive 3D series, and I also skimmed through the Minecraft movie. Did a lot of watching this week. It's very, very bizarre.
I have less than zero interest in the Minecraft movie.
I don't either. I was never really big into Minecraft, but somebody I knew, somebody we both know wanted there's a version on the internet floating around where it's like the version without all the effects done. And so like getting that for him gave me the opportunity to skim through it myself. I was like, it's here. I may as well just skim through it. I don't really have much to say about it just because it really wasn't for me. I hear the theater going experience for that film is fucking ridiculous. Like you have
it's
like every time. Yeah, I know, but like it's beyond that because it's got like that meme energy behind it. Like apparently, like whenever like Jack Black, who's playing Steve, he says single lines, like the entire audience will just. It's like a circus, like a zoo. It just goes nuts. I hear it's absolutely nuts. So, but anyway, don't have much to say about the Guilty Gear Strive or Minecraft stuff. I'm just going to talk about the Devil May Cry series. I will say that
as you thought it was going to be.
Let me get there. I'll get there.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
Because I'll actually lead. Because somebody actually asked me how I felt as a fan of the series after I said that I'd watch it, and I just said I'm just kind of numb at this point. It wasn't. It's a mediocre show, right? Okay. It's difficult to really say in all the ways beneath the surface what's just wrong with it. So I'll try to break it down in a way that's universal and save the as a fan stuff for the end as much as I can. But this might deteriorate quickly, so I'll kind of give you a quick review rundown of it. So as you know, it's not an anime, but it's like an outsourced Korean joint project to look like an anime, as a lot of these video game series are. With the visuals, the style is that same bootleg anime that isn't really anime, comes from American direction and Korean outsourcing. There are times where it tries to beat that and look unique, but it's really just more of the same outside of one episode, which was probably deliberately made to beat that criticism. It's the kind of avant-garde, style changes every other scene for the characters thing that like people will eat up and tell you about years from now, like to kind of justify how good it is. But that's aside from the point. The animation is kind of just inconsistent. That's
Okay.
how a lot of these animated series go, unfortunately, especially when they dip into 3D in order to dodge animating complex designs, or when they need to fill transitions between actions, right? There are times where it will ramp up and you'll see where all the budget goes, but there are other times where it actually dips and you're stuck looking at these stiff 3D models of recurring demons they just did not want to animate, that try to talk or fight, and it's just out of place and unpleasant to look at, or at the very least it's noticeable. Like, I know I can be kind of harsh with this because I'm a big critic when it comes to modern animation, not because it's my passion, but because there's this obsession with lower frame rates for stylistic purposes. And that's just an uphill battle to fight until consumers get bored with it, right? But the thing is, with Devil May Cry, it doesn't seem to be doing that intentionally. It just seems like there are parts that are cheaply thrown together, which leads to inconsistent frame rates across scenes and assets. And while not an eyesore, it's just weakly animated, except for the rare blink and you miss it action scenes, right? As far as the story, it's generic action, starts and ends with extremely on the nose. Humans are the real bad guys. Specifically, American humans are the real bad guys.
Shocker.
That is just played out. Like, if you're tired of the who are the real monsters shit, if you're tired of overly vulgar girl boss characters, if you're tired of characters activating abilities based on emotion, there's nothing here for you but occasional action that's done better elsewhere. Like, most of it is forgettable. It's a bizarre hodgepodge mess of someone cramming in all the popular elements of Devil May Cry that they could gather from Reddit or being handed memes. And this mess was created in service of people who desperately wanted to do more religion bad stories after Castlevania, but couldn't because, and I don't know if you know this, Dan, there is no heavy religious presence in Devil May Cry. There's no god or heaven or angels in the main line, so that's kind of difficult to do religion bad. So what they settled for is making one of the leading antagonistic forces a religious nut while also taking pot shots at places that could be considered holy. And none of that fucking works for Devil May Cry. It just doesn't. That's like the gist of it, like as much as I can really give you, like, without going through the whole story beat by beat. It's generic. It's, you know, the typical tie-in that you probably saw from like Tomb Raider, Laserhawk, Castlevania. It's like if you've watched one, you kind of have the same cynical view across the board that kind of like coats the whole thing throughout. Okay. So to kind of give you an idea of why it doesn't work as like a Devil May, like from a fan, right? Like,
have there ever been any like other interpretations of Devil May Cry, or it's just been the games?
So I mentioned it once a while ago. There is an original anime series that's actually handled by people who worked on the games and was done by a very respected anime studio of the time that did certain series like you probably wouldn't know of, but it's a studio called Madhouse. Have you ever heard of them before?
It sounds familiar. I don't know if I've seen anything they've made, but that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, like they were a pretty big production studio in like the 90s to the late 2000s. Like they did Trigun,
I've seen Trigun.
One that I like called Cardcaptor Sakura. They did a few films. They did Redline, which was an amazing film, which I recommend to anyone who likes that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The whole point is they were a respected anime studio, and they made a really good anime as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people don't like it because it's slower, but it's perfect because it's like an anthology series that like kind of works for Devil May Cry, showing what, you know, somebody like Dante would be doing when he's not on huge world-ending missions, right? And it respected the series. It's still canonical to the series. Like, it's everything that happens in the anime is canon. This new one is kind of just like, it's hard to pin down because this, like, at first it was like, oh, it's going to be an adaptation of Devil May Cry 3, and then it's like, oh, it's going to be before Devil May Cry 3, and what ends up happening is it's like this weird mix of elements of both that's plausible, but the whole thing is like, it just doesn't work, and it's hard to talk about because you have, before this fucking thing came out, you had the guys talking about it's going to be an adaptation, but now that it's out and everybody says this doesn't fit this universe at all, you have them saying, well, it's just an adaptation, it's not an actual adaptation. Like, there's two different versions of the fucking word going around now, and it's just, I said before that it's really just the memes and whatever information someone can get off of Reddit, and it really does feel like Dante doesn't act like Dante, but they can't do all the crazy stuff that they would want to do because people would lose their shit and they were already kind of under the gun after Castlevania. So instead they pass it off to this other character lady who is just like, she swears every other sentence. She acts like this hard, like crazy, like army chick when that was really never her character. You have characters working with characters that, like, there's like lead antagonistic forces that basically enslave characters, but now those characters are working together. All the musical numbers that play are either taken from like somebody's view of what was cool in the 90s or from the most recent game, but it doesn't work. It's like, imagine if you were playing Mass Effect 1 for the first time, right? And all of the music swells that you're familiar with were taken from Andromeda and just kind of grafted in. Like, that wouldn't feel right. Like, you would notice that. It's like, that's the best way I could put it. Or if it's like, imagine like you were playing Jak and Daxter for the first time, and when you start running around the first island that you're on, the Haven City theme is playing. Like, something's wrong. This is very clearly for somebody who has like a viewpoint of the series as a whole just through memes and what's popular. And it's all in service of nothing. I said at the beginning that I'm kind of numb to it, and by the time the end rolled around and it was just this war on terror allegory where like you literally have the American government invading hell to the tune of American Idiot playing, and it shows like
that sounds fucking ridiculous.
It shows like demon refugees. I'm just like, I was just like,
God,
what am I
please.
fucking looking at? And like, that's stupid on its face. Like, you can look at that and say, wow, that's on the nose, that's stupid, right? But it's even dumber for Devil May Cry because, again, I mentioned before, there's no angelic forces at play in Devil May Cry. There was in the reboot, but that's a separate beast altogether. There's no angelic forces in the Devil May Cry mainline game. The director and story writer have flat out said like they don't exist, but at the very least you can say that they're not present in the game proper. The whole point of the series at that level is like, if demons are the dark side, like the irredeemable evil, like cartoonishly evil or literal like beasts that have no thought but they're still evil, humans are the light side of that. And like there's like a whole thing there of like what's good in humanity, versus the worst of demon kind, and like that's the story. So trying to make demons sympathetic when good demons are like incredibly rare, like there's like 3 across like every piece of media available for Devil May Cry. I might be lowballing it, but it's something that doesn't happen. And the only reason it's done in this manner is because Devil May Cry is like just a thing that people recognize, right? Mm-hmm. Like the main character is like this adaptation, again I use that word, but like this bastardization of a character where he looks like it's like a demonic version of the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. And the only reason I bring that up is like, you could just make this series if you wanted to, get rid of all the Devil May Cry stuff and call it like Down the Rabbit Hole or something, but that just wouldn't do. You got to get your hands on whatever you can, because without the brand names and existing legacies from someone else's work and enjoyment, you get half the recognition and none of the impact. So I guess what I'm just trying to say from this long-winded rant, Dan, is that no, I did not enjoy the Devil May Cry Netflix series.
I know the answer I was expecting.
And I'm not looking for, like, because it's going to be like the Castlevania thing where you have people online talking about, oh, the action was so good. Oh, the character, I will prop up this character as my own identity because, like, just latest product is all my life is, and, I'm going to have to deal with that because, like, any series
just consume product.
Exactly. Like, it's the same thing that happened with Castlevania. It's the same thing that happens with anything that gets a popular adaptation, especially from this guy. This guy is just a hack. I just hope he just stops getting his hands on shit at a certain point. It's and we're already going through all the same stages, which is the really annoying part. Like, before, like, people just get bored with it, is it's like, oh, it was great. I don't know what the haters are saying. It was great. It makes all the right people mad. It was great. At least it was better than the games. Why are we pretending the games had good story and writing? Because, like, that's, like, people are propping this up because people like me are saying, like, oh, I think it's shit. It's okay. Shit. It's just shit for it's shit for the snobs, the trend chasers, and the amusables. Just that's all it's there for. It's gonna have its time in the sun. Apparently, there's a chance there might not even be a second season, which would be just phenomenal. That would just be great. But knowing my luck, there'll probably be at least a second season.
Yes.
I'm just numb. Like I said before, it's more shit where it's like just crap. There's only so much I can say about it. There's only so much I can
he's
say.
gonna end up going around in circles eventually.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the I don't think the Minecraft movie or the Guilty Gear Strive 3D anime was all that great, but those have the traditional issues of like just bad production value, like bad writers. Like the Minecraft is like, there's only so much you can say about something that was designed for kids, right? But it's like it's almost like it's beneath that, where it's like kids are they're deserved of good content. This is more like toddler stuff, which is weird because it's for an all ages thing where like, we grew up when Minecraft was new, so it really should have been like some
Crazy
kind of
that Minecraft is that old. Like, oh yeah, we were growing up when Minecraft was like becoming all the that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so there's a conversation to have around that I'm not really interested in having, where it's just the typical like kids do deserve good content as much as anybody else. So, but it's basically like, or it's not even at the kids level. It's like arguing about toddler level stuff, which is a problem in itself. And then the Strive anime is just, it's nightmarish to talk about from a fan stand. Like I can't even drag you down. Like it'll be impossible to really tell you in all the ways that it's like wrong outside of just looking janky, because like you would need in-depth knowledge of Japanese only things from like 15 years ago, and I don't think I have the time to explain that to you. So we'll move on from what I've watched this week.
Well, okay. So let's get into some gaming news then, because that was.
Go for it.
Oh man, you took that and ran with it.
Yeah, it's nightmare. I can't stand bad adaptations.
All right. Well, the first thing that I think I want to touch on is the gameplay embargo for Doom: The Dark Ages was lifted, and we got like a ton of actual gameplay. It was like the same level, but different people playing, so you get to see how different people would tackle the same situation. But I mean, I've definitely have said this before on the show, but like Doom 2016 was run and gun. Eternal was like you're supposed to be like this fighter jet. Yeah, jump and fight.
And
then,
or jump and shoot, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, jump and shoot. And then Dark Ages is stand and fight. And everything that I've seen so far of the Dark Ages, and I've probably watched like a solid hour of gameplay. I am very excited for this game.
Yeah, it looks solid.
It really looks like the team looked at the original Doom that came out in oh Jesus, when did Doom come out? Early 90s or the late 80s?
I think it might have been 1993. I distinctly remember that because I remember that it was like, oh, this came out the same year I was born, but maybe I'm wrong. Hold on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so it really feels like the team at id looked at the original Doom and just not like gave it a new paint job, but made a new game with the same core pillars that the original Doom was founded on, which I'm pretty sure they've said in press interviews before. But
I think
that is.
No, I was going to say that is something I think we noted when we were talking about the Xbox presentation, and I've talked to people who are big fans of Doom, and they say it is reminiscent of that like grounded style. And Doom did come out in 1993. I did double check.
Jesus Christ, the fucking the shield, the chain shield, the shield saw, whatever you want to call it, that thing looks like a blast. I can't wait to play it. Oh my god, it really does look like it's a stand and fight version of Doom, which I think personally I am going to vibe with the most. Just based on like how I like to play shooters. It just, the whole gameplay loop seems like it's really geared towards my type of style of FPS, and everything that I've seen, like I don't have like one negative thing. Actually, no, that's a lie. I do. I don't know how I feel about the dynamic glory kills, because you know how in Eternal and even in 2016, you can execute a glory kill, and you go into like this 2 or 3 second animation where you can watch the Slayer execute a demon in a however gruesome way he does it. Um, but you get back armor and ammo for it. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the Dark Ages, it's more of like a dynamic system because you have the chainsaw shield and you
Hmm.
also have this flail mace. But
Yes.
the flail mace is on a cooldown. There's 3 charges of it,
Hmm.
and you can use it 3 times back to back, based on the cue that the enemy like that the demon will give you that you can actually use the flail to either execute them or inflict like heavy damage.
Hmm.
But you're not locked in an animation, so like you can still kind of see what's going on around you, and it's also way fast. Like there's no more 3 second animation lock where you can't really do anything.
Hmm.
Um, I really enjoyed the Doom Eternal Glory kills because it just made you feel even more like the Slayer, and it just being this fucking force of nature that can't be stopped. Um, I I say it's a con now. I haven't played it, so I really couldn't tell you with absolute certainty. But
Hmm.
I just like the way that it looked in Eternal as opposed to the Dark Ages. But maybe it'll grow on me. Like maybe it'll just be a better way of playing Doom. That and
Hmm.
the sections of the gameplay that incorporated the Slayer's dragon looked and felt almost kind of tacked on. Like obviously, when you're playing as the Slayer, it's like that's the star of the show, and
Hmm.
that's what the whole game is about. When you're playing as the dragon, or the Slayer is controlling the dragon, um, it just kind of looks like a mode of the game that doesn't
Yeah.
really like. It's not really doesn't belong there necessarily. Like it's cool that it's in the game, but I don't know if it's enough that like, maybe those resources could have been allocated somewhere else instead of making an underwhelming level or a section of a level.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
the mech portion where you have this like enormous Jaeger style mech, those look more doomy than the dragon sections.
mhm.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but all in all, like I'm very excited for the Dark Ages. It's probably my most anticipated game of the year so far.
Mm.
I don't think anything else is really coming out that I'm like super excited for. There have been some marathon leaks, which I'll get to later, but um, I'm not really expecting much from Marathon the same
Mhm.
way that I'm expecting things from Doom the Dark Ages. So all that being said, like it looks great. It looks like a ton of fun. It's a new version of the IdTech engine. I think it's IdTech 8, if I'm not mistaken. I could be
Okay.
wrong about that. But uh, the previous version of the engine that Eternal was running off of, like it ran beautifully on any system that I played it. I mean, I have a laptop and I have a desktop, and it ran fine on either. Apparently, IdTech 8 is even more efficient than the previous engine, and it like there's no stutters, crashes, glitches, bugs, whatever. No one has said anything about any of that stuff during the gameplay preview. So I'm excited. I'm very much looking forward to the Dark Ages. It comes out in May, I think, mid-May.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as Doom the Dark Ages go, what I will say on your last 2 points of stability and then the Dragon and Mech sections, one of the nice things about Doom's, I guess you could say, growth, visually and technically from Doom 2016 to now is that it's not massive. Like they're good looking games, but like that's one of the nice things is you don't need to worry about, as you go along, crashes. Everything seems stable. Like that's where all the adjustments
Yeah.
are going and making a more stable product. As far as the dragon and mech section of the game, you mentioned that it kind of feels tacked on.
Yeah, a
What I
little
what
bit.
I will say is that it's just like from what I've heard, is that people who saw both of those things and said like, "Awesome, I can't wait to do this," might end up disappointed because of like it's a relatively small part of the game,
Right.
and that works good for me, and I'm assuming you to a certain point, because like I'm there for like the classic Doom gameplay.
Well,
I like
I
the
want to be
grounded
the
aspects of
Slayer.
it.
I want to be this
Yeah.
force of nature that goes into the battlefield by himself against a literal army of demons and
Yeah.
like there's nothing they could do to stop me. Like that's what the whole power fantasy of Doom is to me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with including the dragon and the mech sections of the game, but I don't want them to overstay their welcome, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I mean that's just a time old difficult line to walk. Like there's plenty of games throughout the generations where like you'll have a segment that like it struggles in between like too much in your face and too little. Why did you even bother? And it's just we'll see how that's paced. I have a feeling like it's a fine line to walk between like occasional annoying mini game and I just want to get back to the game. And I think that action games throughout the years, be it games like Devil May Cry, Kingdom Hearts, Bayonetta, have struggled themselves with this, where like there's just segments broken up by it's like I just want to play these characters, why are you putting this in my face? I think what'll end up happening based on everything we've heard about it so far is I think these dragon and mech sections, you're more at risk of having a moment where you go like I didn't get enough of them than you will walking away saying I wish they did less of them. If they don't nail that balance, I think it's going to end up being inoffensive and just kind of like a head scratcher.
It'd be a better outcome if it was I want to play more of the dragon and mech sections as opposed to I don't want to be here anymore.
I agree. So, and I think that, short of them finding that balance that works perfectly, we are more likely to have that. So I think that's a good thing. And that's just based on what I've heard of those sections so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was all I had to say on Doom. So I'm looking forward to it. It comes out in May. I already pre-ordered the collector's edition because, one last thing I wanted to mention was that the Dark Ages is a very different feeling game from the other two Dooms. And I don't think that it is getting enough credit for wanting to make that hard line in the sand distinction between Doom 2016 was like its own game. Eternal felt very different from 2016, and the Dark Ages are going to feel very different from both of the two that came before it. I think that's like a very good design philosophy to have when making a third entry in the same IP. And you have to do something to differentiate it from the other two games, but also make it familiar enough that it still belongs in the same IP.
Yes.
I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So, that was the last thing I got to say.
No, that's fine. It is something Doom the Dark Ages is a game we're both waiting for, so we've talked a lot about like ad nauseam. There's only so much you could say as far as this game looks really, really good, and it's trying something different while being the same, and that's a good thing. I guess it's really just going to be. I think they're out of things to play and show. Really, I think it's just a matter of the waiting game from here on out. I think we've seen
which is fine. I mean,
no, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we're almost at launch, so when it comes out, I'm very excited to get my hands on it and see how it actually plays.
Yeah. So speaking of launch, just because the Doom the Dark Ages is obviously been a big showing at a lot of these Xbox events. This month is pretty big for I say pretty big, but like a lot of those plans are coming to fruition. Like spring in general is or late spring is supposed to be big for all those things. I think tomorrow, or maybe it was even today, South of Midnight comes out.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of stuff on that game. I haven't really watched much of it, but I know it's coming out very, very soon.
Yeah. My whole position on that is like I'm not really interested. I'll probably play it just because it's on Game Pass. It'll be one of those situations where I play it for like portions throughout the week and then just get bored of it. That's my guess. My understanding is that it's
already out. It's supposedly it releases on April 3rd. But
that was the premium. That was the buy the premium version, play it early.
Oh, okay.
I think it either came out today or tomorrow. So the you know what it is? I might have my screws loose because we're recording a day late. It might have come out today, and I just haven't paid attention. But anyway, the whole point is that's one of their big releases. My understanding is that it's reviewing rather well, but how much do you trust reviewers really? I haven't heard anything exciting brought up about it.
It depends on the reviewer.
Yeah, that's true, but it's just like being connected to, I don't want to say super connected to social media because I'm really not. It's something I can fill in throughout the day to browse. You get used to seeing certain voices, and when those voices are happy with something, you kind of say like you're just like the new kind of shill. So I'm like I get wary when I see certain people excited about it, So I have a feeling it's gonna be one of those games that everybody talks about, and it's just like, oh, it's a killer app for the Xbox, an unexpected hit for the Xbox, and then everybody just kind of forgets about it. I think it's going to get a lot of attention from certain people just because of, you know, it is one of those games that was uprooted very early on by, you know, those consultation companies. You know, you have game directors saying, you know, the usual, I hate gamers, I hate certain races kind of thing. So it's just like, you know, how much do you really want from these people? But, you know, it's free for me, I guess. So I'll probably give it a shot at a certain point. And then the other thing, the one thing I'm actually excited for is that that Expedition 33 game is coming out later this month.
Yes.
I'm very, very excited for that. I know it's not really up your alley because, you know, turn-based, even though it's an active turn-based game.
I'm willing to try it. I am. Based off of your excitement, you've convinced me.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot. You know, mileage will vary based on the, you know, type of game, but I will say it is on, as far as turn-based action games go, this one is a bit more palatable for, or I would assume it's a bit more palatable for people who wouldn't necessarily be for those games because it's an open turn-based game where like viewing the timeline of who's going to be attacking is going to be part of the gameplay. Like your actions have consequences on like who goes in what order, and you can delay them. It's almost like this doesn't do you any good, but it's like Final Fantasy X in that regard, where it's like that's part. It's almost like a puzzle in that regard. And then when it comes to landing critical blows or dodging or guarding, like there's more activity going on in there. So it might be more palatable for people. Not saying that it should appeal to all audiences, but it should be more appealing than, like, let's say a classic Final Fantasy game or a Dragon Quest game. There's a little bit more going on under the hood. So I'm very, but for me personally, regardless of everybody else liking it, I'm very excited for it, which either means I'm going to walk away happy or something is going to happen during that game that sucker punches me and I'm going to be very upset because, you know how it is. It's these days you can't trust fucking anybody until the game is in your hand. But luckily, another Game Pass thing, so I won't be out money if they screw me. So there's that.
All right, well, moving on to something a little bit smaller yet significant at the same time, just because of what the game is. GTA 6, apparently they are planning on doing limited releases on not last generation but 2 generation old consoles, and that's just a fucking stupid idea.
No. I think you fell for an April Fool's joke. I don't think that's real.
No, really? Oh shit! It was on the first.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh,
I think you fell
take
for
that back.
April Fools. Like, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't put it past them. And Take-Two is, for better or worse, they're very good when it comes to.
I feel like an idiot. I didn't even realize it was on the first. God damn it.
You definitely headline that. You just headline because if you click on that, if you click on that article, it's like the way it's worded too. I'm not even gonna pay that no mind until I hear something else.
Okay, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. Fuck that website. Shit. Oh, I feel like an idiot. God damn.
Do you need a break? Do you need a little bit to recover? You just want to slide on to the next piece?
Yeah, let's move on. Let's fuck it. That didn't even happen. Let's just move on.
Watch it end up coming true anyway. Just like you'll have this fucking this moment, and then like at near release, by the way, we're
for the game's sake. God damn it! Oh man! Oh, I feel like a fucking asshole. Oh, okay. What's the next thing I have to talk about? Quick. What's the before they really?
You poor bastard.
Oh my god.
It's one thing to fall for an April Fool's joke. It's another to fall for it 6 days after April Fool's.
Dude, I work 70 hours a week, all right? Like, I see these articles, I'm like, oh, like that seems fucking ridiculous. I posted to the Discord.
Daniel, I love you. I respect you. If you had 10 seconds free, you would have known that's bullshit.
Well, when I read it, I was like, that seems a little off the reservation, and then I just God.
All right.
Like, you know, like all the days blur together for me. I'm just like, and I barely even know what date it is. Anyway,
right, redeem yourself. Give me some real news.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the game Den of Wolves?
This will be the third time you've brought it up to me, and my answer will be, I think you told me about it once.
Okay. Okay, so Den of Wolves is a game that was made by a developer called 10 Chambers, and this studio made the game GTFO. Do you remember that game? Do you know of that
Yes.
game?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, GTFO is what I could only describe as a hardcore co-op shooter. So the game leans into co-op so heavily. Um, I don't even know how to like really describe this. Uh, so the slogan of GTFO is uh, uh, work together or die together. Like you have to communicate with your team. It's I guess technically like a horror type of game because you're going down into like this lab that's like hundreds or thousands of feet below the surface of the earth, and you're playing as this convict that is basically on death row, and the only way to get out of it is to go on these missions for this company to get time off of your sentence or whatever. Like that's the lore, but you're not really playing the game for the lore. You're playing it for the co-op experience. But anyway, um, uh, the same guys who made GTFO are making a game called Den of Wolves. Now, they previously used to work for Starbreeze, or they were Starbreeze, because the vast majority of the team left to go make 10 Chambers. But um, they were working at Starbreeze, who a lot of people will know that name from Payday 2. I say 2, not 3, because 3 is a fucking shit show, and it's barely even a game. I don't even know if it's even alive anymore. But Payday 2 was very popular back in its heyday. It was a co-op heist shooter game,
Mhm.
and so they went on to make GTFO. That was very well received by the people who did play it. It wasn't like super popular because of the nature of the game. It was so unforgiving as far as what you had to do and like the way you had to communicate with your team in order to survive, that it like the barrier to entry for GTFO is very, very high because you need to have the right people to play with. And I never got to play the game. I always wanted to, but like it was just never in the cards for the people that I play games. Like it just wasn't gonna happen. Um, so they made Den of Wolves, which is another like heist type of shooter. But it seems to be like future, like near future setting, the same way that Black Ops 2 was, or is. Um, and I posted a pre-alpha gameplay video to the news channel just
Mhm.
because one, it was like a reminder for myself to talk about it. But you can actually see how the game is going to play, and I don't know, it's not like a huge thing to talk about, but it looks cool. I am, I am cautiously optimistic for it, just based on the track record of the developers, and I have no idea when it's coming out. I don't even think they have a release date other than 2025 at some point, but it looks like a fun shooter that you can play with friends, and it's the heist theme, which is always a good time. So that was it. That was the only thing I really had to say about Den of Wolves.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
It
Uh,
definitely seems like something you're excited for because I think you've given me updates even when you only have scraps of
yeah,
information to hand
yeah, that's
out.
true. Yeah, well, because like I wanted to play GTFO really bad, but I never
Uh,
had the people to play with,
yeah,
and that it's not like I could just queue up and hope for the best with like a bunch of random. Like that game was
that's a
never
tough
gonna
one.
work that way. Yeah. Den of Wolves seemed to be something like me, you, or and Joe could play. Like I feel like that would
Yeah.
be a fun time.
Oh yeah.
So they, the point being, they released pre-alpha gameplay. It looks good. I am interested to see the next thing they release, and inevitably when the game comes out, how it's going to be.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's it. It's just a small little thing.
Yeah.
Um, moving on from there, Battlefield 6's Battle Royale game mode has been data mined, and I am not surprised at all. Although I hope that it is not the focus for that game, because I think if they lean too hard into a Battle Royale type of mode for Battlefield, then they're completely fucking missing the mark of what a Battlefield game should be. I just think
Mm.
that's like the wrong move. Um, uh, Furthermore, there have been more leaks for Battlefield 6.
Oh,
Apparently, we're getting several maps that are in the United States. It's supposed to be LA and New York, which I think
okay.
could be pretty cool. The same way that like Modern Warfare 2 had you fighting in the Capitol, but it was single player mission. But even in the multiplayer for Modern Warfare 2, like you were fighting in the suburbs, which is always kind of cool. But it's not the same thing as Battlefield. So, like a large scale war in the setting of Battlefield taking place in New York City or LA, I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't think they've ever done anything like that in a Battlefield game, except for maybe Hardline, but I
I
don't
mean,
know how many people would consider Hardline like a great entry in the series.
remind me where some of the maps, some of the urban maps of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 have taken place, just because I was never
I don't have
clear on the
like a province
locations.
or a city or anything, but
Yeah.
it was like a Middle Eastern city. Of course I can't fucking think of anything now that I have to. Um, but it was Battlefield 4 or 5, I think, had a map in uh it was not a third world city. It was like a first world. I want to say Dubai, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. It was one of the maps where had the levolution where like you can do X, Y, and Z thing to the massive skyscraper in the middle of the map, and it'll collapse, and like the map is
Yeah.
completely transformed. That
Yeah.
was one of them. Which like
I think
again, if
that's
you
the
were
one
to play
everyone
through it,
remembers.
yeah, like you're not gonna assume that's a third world city. Like that is a first world like wealthy city.
Yeah.
But the majority of them are Middle Eastern cities. So, uh, yeah. So more with the leaks. There's apparently like 40 plus weapons coming to launch at the game, which is way more than we've ever had in Battlefield.
Hmm.
You can now you can still customize weapons on the fly the same way that Battlefield uh 2042 lets you do. Um, so that's neat. Like it's kind of like I guess to be expected with Battlefield at this point, but um, it's just something that was leaked today. That's really it though. Like not like a whole lot of stuff, but um, something worth touching on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's definitely one of those games you're going to hear just more snippets and snippets as we get closer to release. All eyes are on it during like one of the biggest,
yeah,
like the one of their biggest alpha testing initiatives ever. So
yeah.
we're
Battlefield
gonna be getting a
labs are
ton of
going on, and
stuff.
nobody gave a fuck about the NDA. They
Yeah.
and not even like nobody gave a fuck to the point where like even EA was just like, yeah, just let them fucking post it.
Well,
Like, who cares?
it's like I
It's
said last time
positive
we
publicity.
yeah, last time we talked about it, I think I mentioned it's I'm pretty sure the NDA is only there to like stem the flow a little bit, not to cut off information completely, just
Yeah.
because I think they want some of that, like what people would be willing to leak will most likely be positive or at least curious to some people. I think they were just
Look,
the
man,
only reason
people
the
are very
NDA
excited for Battlefield
yeah,
6.
yeah.
Like the core fans,
Yeah.
they see where the direction that DICE is trying to take Battlefield, and it's basically to put it into like a sentence, it's Battlefield 3 and 4, but updated for the current gaming landscape, which
Mhm.
it sounds like that's a negative, but that's a positive. That is a huge positive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely a situation where all eyes are on it, and I think that NDA is only there to scare enough people and to like hold back enough. I think they're happy enough with some of the details getting out, and in the cases they aren't happy, they will act on it. So I
Yeah.
think it's a calculated advertising move, honestly. Just
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's the same thing where like suspiciously as certain games get close to release, this happens a lot with Ubisoft, but it's just like select things will leak out in select places. It's all there's a lot of stuff like that that goes into like advertising without advertising.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was my weekly Battlefield update. Um, I am very curious to see like the official gameplay reveal that they will inevitably show. I still remember coming over your house and like playing Bad Company 2 for hours on end, like all night
Mm,
long.
yeah.
I loved Bad Company 2. It was so good. Oh man. So hopefully we can recapture some of that magic.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what else I got. Um, going on to continuing on to the smallish news. There was a new rumor this week that Titanfall 3 is coming sometime in 2026. Anthony,
Mm.
so help me God if that's false. I Titanfall 2 is like in my top 5 games of all time. I
Hmm.
fucking love Titanfall series, just full stop. But Titanfall 2, man, whew, that was something special. That was something special, and uh, God, where the rumor came from? It was a guy on a Discord. Man, I've read the article now. I can't remember. Uh, Give me your thoughts on this real quick while I find this. I already have the article up.
So my thoughts on the potential Team Fortress 3, with Team Fortress, Jesus Christ, Titanfall. I see TF, I think Team Fortress.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how little an impact Titanfall has had since Titanfall 2 came out and ended. Titanfall, I'm obviously wary given the current state of Respawn and how, like, if we were to get a Titanfall 3, it would be just from pure demand, not necessarily, like, there's more pushing that game into development demand wise than there is internal developer wise, just otherwise we would have had it by now.
Yeah.
So I'm skeptical there, but I will say that the bar, or I shouldn't say the bar, but like the threshold they need to cross isn't as high as some people think. They need to, it's simple, you've heard me say it before, they just need to get the Titan combat and the pilot combat at like the same level of quality and have that quality be good. That's really all they need to do.
Yeah,
because
that's literally all they need to do.
because and you've heard me rant about this before. I will say it up and down until the day I die whenever I talk about this series. Is Titanfall 1, phenomenal Titan combat, okay pilot combat. Titanfall 2, phenomenal pilot combat, okay Titan combat. If you can get both of those up to good and release it in a Titanfall 3, you're golden.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, the leak came from two well-known Apex Legends leakers that are also in the it's either the Apex Discord or just like the Respawn Discord. But they have a track record of being accurate on Apex Legends leaks, and
Okay.
they both said that. Yeah.
I had heard similarly when both from what you sent me and what I also heard about it through different channels, so I know that they're reputable to a certain degree.
Yeah. So they have a track record of being accurate with Apex Legends leaks, and they're now saying that Respawn is working on Titanfall 3, and it's supposed to be due out sometime next year, and it's supposed to be revealed at the Game Awards of this year. So we'll see
That's
if there's
that's
any
plausible.
validity to that.
Yeah.
But fucking Jesus Christ, man, if this actually happens, I will be just as excited, if not more, than when Mass Effect Andromeda got announced. I
You
was
know,
on cloud nine when that
I
happened.
think Titanfall 3 will be good. I don't think it'll make a huge splash, but I think that's honestly
No, I
for
don't
the
think so
better.
either.
I think it'll be. I think that's for the better because then it's like, we all have those friends that like to burn
Yeah,
themselves
well,
out on games,
when
and we have the people that love to burn themselves. It'll be nice to play it
yeah,
without that noisy crowd around it.
yeah, yeah. When Titanfall 2 came out, EA in their infinite fucking wisdom sandwiched that game in between Call of Duty and Battlefield that were both coming out that year
Yeah.
in the same month, like within the same 2 weeks or
Yeah.
3 weeks. They sandwiched it right in between those two, like the biggest IPs in the first person shooter genre, which was basically like a suicide quest, whatever. Um, I don't, at the very least, if Titanfall 3 is real and it's going to come out in 2026, I don't think that it would be encumbered by something such as that. Because COD is not what it once was, and
Yeah.
Battlefield definitely is not what it once was.
Yeah.
So, at the very least, like it will not have that level of competition. Um, so, I mean, I'm trying to pull something positive out of this, but uh, I hope this rumor is true, because if it's not, I'm gonna cry myself to sleep every night until Titanfall 3 comes out. So, anywho, one of the last big things that I want to talk about is Bungie's marathon.
Yeah.
And in the past 48 hours, we've gotten some leaks, and we got a teaser trailer for the gameplay reveal that is happening on the 12th of this month. So it's only a few days away. But the gameplay leaks were, yes, it's an extraction shooter. Everyone knew that. It was like officially recognized by Bungie as being an extraction shooter. But there's like supposed to be these classes involved that you can pick from, but not so much to the point where it's it's like a hero shooter level of classes. Like, yeah, you have like basic baseline abilities, but you still have a lot of agency over your loadout overall, which I think
Hmm.
is good. Um, uh, a bunch of weapons and weapon models were leaked, but like it doesn't really tell you anything. The whole art style looks cool. I mean, you know how I feel about extraction shooters. I actually really like them if they're done well. My favorite so far has been DMZ from COD, even though
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not like a hardcore extraction shooter, but it was enough that I really enjoyed my time with it.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, I like Bungie shooters. Halo is one of the best games ever made. Destiny and Destiny 2 have been staples in my gaming career for the past decade. And I can't imagine Marathon is going to be that much of a far cry from the way that Destiny plays.
Hmm.
So I am very curious to see what the actual gameplay looks like and how the extraction shooter genre will work through the lens of Bungie. So I don't know. April 12th is going to be interesting because I'm very curious to see what they have to offer the existing community because the only game they've been developing for the past 10 fucking years is Destiny.
Hmm.
So you have to assume that at least a portion of the audience that they're making this game for are existing Destiny fans. Um, so I don't know what that means for like how the game is going to look and play,
Hmm.
but the art style looks, you know, it looks very Bungie, if that makes sense, especially based on the past 10 years of Destiny. Um, and I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much it as far as like leaks go. I was
Yeah.
surprised to see a teaser this past week, so we'll see how that looks on the
Yeah,
12th.
I saw that teaser too. Um, I don't have much to really say about Marathon, obviously, just because I'm not as invested in the Bungie
Yeah.
Destiny space. The only thing I really will say is like I think I mentioned this way back when we first started talking about Marathon is that I'm off put by the nature of the game being like a flip of a name, but it
Yeah.
appears to have none of the bones of the original anywhere in it. It kind
Yeah.
of seems unnecessary to call this Marathon. I actually think it might do better if it wasn't called Marathon. I think you're gonna lose some
I
of
mean,
the
I think
Bungie
that's just
diehards
like
there.
I think calling it marathon is just more of like a this is where Bungie came from type of thing, and they're just kind of reusing the name. I never
No,
played the original Marathon, so I don't know. I don't know
I'm
like
gonna.
what like especially lore, because the only thing that you can really bring forward is the lore, unless you're like completely remaking the game. So
I
yeah,
don't.
I don't have
I,
much to say on that.
Yeah, I'm not saying like that should be a major factor. I'm just saying like I think that puts a bad taste in my mouth as somebody who is like not in that sphere that they like regardless of whether they want to say it or not, they want people like me to jump on board. This isn't
Yeah.
just for the people who are in that space, and I'm off put by that. There's a lot of things about it like the art style just looks
Well,
ugly and
y you're
garish
off
too,
put
but
by that, but at the same time, like the vast majority of people who even know of the game's existence are as well read as you in the gaming
but
industry overall.
But here's the
So,
thing, and this kind of goes to what we talk about a lot in the game. Like, why add an arbitrary net negative? Like, if it's only going to off put like a small fraction and not net you anybody, like nobody like Marathon isn't like there's a lot of situations where niche or older or legacy IPs are trotted out under different adaptations to get the attention of people that want to pretend they're fans. Nobody's chomping at the bit to be like an OG Marathon fan. So if you're just putting off people like me and some of the people who surprised, like I can't imagine there's too many old school Marathon fans like in the Bungie wheelhouse, but like they exist, you know.
yeah,
And the grow, if anything, there's a growing, you know, with the way that the culture is going, there is a growing contingent of people who will hear people like me say, "This is nothing like Marathon. It just seems like a cheap usage of the name." Like it's more likely that you will get people that hear that and just check out than it was like 10 years ago. So I just
yeah,
like, so I understand where you're saying, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm saying it should matter, and ultimately, like, there's no positives to using the name this way. There's
I guess.
even if the negatives are small, there's no positives to counteract the small negatives, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that much of a detractor, though. It's
But no,
going back
like,
to the art style, like that you were bringing up before.
uh,
Um, I so I don't hate the art style of it,
uh-huh.
but at the same time, like I'm not like overcome by like, oh, this looks super interesting. Um,
I
not in
mean,
the same way that I, what?
it's nice that there's colors, but it just seems like very like
Right. It's
glaring and
very
in your
flamboyant,
face.
and like
It
I'm
doesn't
not.
seem like there's cohesive style. Honestly, it just seems like just I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very
Well, I was gonna
hard on the
compare it
eyes.
to Destiny because like the very first thing that really drew me in to the Destiny franchise, setting aside the fact that it was being developed by Bungie, who were just coming off of the Halo trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
and like everyone was in love with that studio to begin with. Um, the art style for Destiny was like sci-fi meets fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that the concept art when they first showed it off 10 years ago was awesome. I actually really liked the concept art like all that time ago. There is nothing that's like really speaking to me about the marathon art direction that I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, like I would love to play this." Like I never had that thought once.
Yeah. No.
So, yeah, well, I mean, it's not really like a non-starter for me. I need to see how the game plays and how it
Yeah,
feels.
like I said, like the style is definitely tied into how everything works together in a package when you see in-engine footage of it running. I do
Yeah,
think ultimately the only thing that's a definitive negative is the usage of the name, because like you said, you don't think it's that big of a detractor, but -1 is still -1, it's
right.
there's no
Yeah,
positive to outweigh it. So that's my only two comments on it,
yeah.
really.
All right. Well, I mean, as far as like stuff that I wanted to talk about, that's probably it for right now. I mean, there's some
Yeah,
smaller stuff we could save it for next week. It's
yeah, let me
nothing
see.
like groundbreaking, but
Yeah.
a big thing that I know we both wanted to
Yes.
talk about is the Switch 2.
Yes.
That got announced this week.
Or not announced, but like they had their showing
Right.
event where they
Yeah, yeah.
talked about
And like
everything.
I'm gonna really defer to you for the large part of this because I'm really not a Nintendo guy. I have not
Yeah.
been for a very long time. I obviously know about the Switch 2's existence and the very base um, features and facts that Nintendo has announced for it.
Hmm.
But that's kind of it. So why don't you give me the elevator pitch, as it were, about
Okay.
what Nintendo is offering here?
Yeah, we may as well, because we should just start with the specs and the positives, because there's a lot more discussion as far as the things that people aren't necessarily keen on, or some of the things that to look at as we get closer to the release date.
Yeah.
The hardware just it looks solid. One of the major things we kept talking about leading up to the Switch 2's announcement and up until this major reveal where they talked about it is we called it a kick the can console. And what that translates to is it's a design they're comfortable with, and it's a design they're comfortable enough to focus on improvements. Ports are all in the right places. It's seemingly more durable. There's better ventilation. Performance wise, the threshold is high. You get 1080p 4K when docked, 60 frames per second up to 120 frames per second. The first party games are locked in. They're going to look amazing. They're going to be
Yeah.
functional.
Those
They're gonna
all sound like
yeah.
very solid specs, I
Yeah,
might add.
it's one of those situations where obviously your mileage will vary based on who's putting the fucking games together, but like we talked about with the Switch 1, even this late into its life, is first party games ran and functioned outside of like rare instances like Pokemon, but that's a whole other thing. But basically the third party has tools to make solid games on the hardware, and the first party is going to be solid for like the
Yeah.
foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So a small thing that like I noticed, and like they're starting to do more. There's more press around it now, but something that I really like. They finally provided out of the box and often theorized but rarely tried control option, and that is mouse movement on one hand, analog on the other. Basically, like the Joy Cons when put on their side function like mice do.
I think it's a
And
really cool feature,
yeah,
my
exactly.
personal opinion.
No, yeah, it's something that whenever it comes up, we have talked about it once or twice, but I feel like I've been waiting for somebody to really try. In your left hand, you have analog movement and some buttons. On your right hand, you have the mouse, and it's just like nobody's really done that before. And Nintendo's going to be the first party to really roll with that end. with their showing of Metroid Prime 4, which is something that, is finally, around the corner, they showed that it's actually seamless. You don't need to go into a menu. You could be sitting there with your Joy-Cons, and if you're at the desk, you just put the Joy-Con down and it just switches seamlessly into this dual control mode with the mouse.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's we'll see in practice how seamless it is and how comfortable it is and how it's controlled. I'm just glad somebody's trying that. That was like a unique thing to me that I'm glad they're actually mentioning. There were a lot of cool features with the Switch one where they just kind of memory hold it at a certain point as like a tech demo. But this one appears to be something that they're marketing and want developers, including their own, to say, hey, this is something that you got to try. So overall, the console, as far as hardware is concerned, looks solid. I think I've heard a few people complain that the screen isn't OLED, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Like, I get it. I get the complaint, but at the same time, I mean, that's just a mixture of a cost decision. I'm sure there will be an OLED Switch 2 much earlier than there was an OLED Switch 1 for the people that want it. But I feel like out of the box, it's almost like 4K televisions, right? It's not a standard, so people aren't going to be complaining. Your average consumer isn't going to be complaining. The kids that are the ages that, like, when we were playing Game Boy Advances and there were all the different light peripherals for the screen and shit like that, those kids are not going to be complaining about OLEDs. So I'm not really, I think most people, and people like me, don't even really give a fuck. So, like, it's not a standard yet. It's not a necessity, but that is the one thing I've heard people complain about. And from what I've heard, the one point of failure that I was concerned about, at least in this early testing period, where the Joy-Cons are now magnetic instead of sliding in and holding, apparently it holds very well. So we'll see if that holds up. Now, for some of the more controversial stuff, because it was basically the software. I don't know how much you've heard about, like, the kerfuffle around software and pricing and all this shit. Have you heard anything?
I know that it's going to be is it 400 or 450 for the console itself?
It's what the fuck was the price? I actually forgot.
I think it's 400.
I think hold on, let me double check this because it's gone up, okay. It's gone down.
As far as the Switch 2 goes, just overall for me personally, like, I am 32 years old. Like, I have a very what's the word I'm looking for? I have a very set set amount of games that I like to play, like type of games I like to play. I'm very much into action games. I like shooters, RPGs, depending on what they are. I am set in my ways for, like, my gaming habits. I could never, this is for me personally, I can't speak for you or for anybody else. I could never justify the price tag that they are charging for the console they are providing. Now, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad move or, like, an unjustified move, but Nintendo games have not been my thing for quite some time. If I were to buy a mobile console in the same vein as a Switch, I would just buy a Steam Deck. There's no reason for me. Like, granted, I know a ton of people out there, they love Mario games, they love Zelda games, they love Metroid games. Like, that's fair. You're allowed to like what you like. For me, if I'm gonna buy a mobile console, it's gonna be a Steam Deck. The Switch doesn't offer me anything on an individual level that I'm like, okay, this is worth it. So, I'm not the target audience. I get that. But I like what they're doing as far as the specs go and what they're doing with their own proprietary IPs. But it's not for me personally, and that's fine. Like, I'm not the target audience.
So you kind of hit the nail on the head right at the end there, where you basically, the console's where it needs to be for the people that are going to buy it. It is a very solid hardware. It hits all the things it needs to do for a console that is a sequel console, so to speak. It hits all the right marks better than the Wii U did for the Wii. I'll put it that way. Now, where people are kind of running into the issue is the pricing on everything. So the console is priced at $450. Bundle tie-in is with Mario Kart World is $500, right? So I hear all this talk about the value of the dollar and inflation pricing and all that kind of stuff, and I just, like, I think it's a little too high priced, but I think that's personal bias as far as what I'm willing to spend personally, you know. I think it's pretty much at the threshold of what's acceptable for the console they're offering. The main concern I have is the pricing of the games. Have you seen any of those?
What the average price is, like $70.
The average price is like $70. There are some Mario Kart World is $80.
That's why.
Like
That's crazy.
so something I was looking at all the prices, because the prices are actually really all over the place. Like, you have Switch One games will be, you know, backwards compatible. They'll be priced anywhere between 40 and 70 depending on what game it is. Some of those games,
That's crazy.
some of those games, if you have the existing games, some of them will require that you pay extra for compatibility on the Switch too, because it'll come with expansions. Like Breath of the Wild is getting an update. Tears of the Kingdom is getting an update. Some of the Kirby games are getting an update where you pay like $10 for like an expanded version with compatibility and stuff like that. I've seen some third-party games as low as $40. Mario Kart World is $80, as I mentioned before. That's the one everybody's freaking out about. This tie-in demo called like the Switch 2 Experience is $10. People are saying it should be free. So like, some games have like a $10 difference between physical and digital. Some don't. It's just all over the place. And I said, like, I think I either said it to you or I was talking to somebody. I said something like, I think as the industry tries to worm its way up to $100 games, right? We're going to see variable pricing come into play. And actually, just today, we had Doug Bowser of Nintendo, the CEO, come out and say that there's going to be variable pricing in response to all these complaints, right? And I just got to say, that's not what's actually happening here. There is variable pricing, don't get me wrong, but it's only going to go one way. Like, the next time a Mario Party or a Mario Sports game comes out, it's not going to be $40, which would fit this variable pricing claim. It's going to be 70 or 80, just like every other Nintendo game is going to be. So it's just Nintendo is pushing the industry where Grand Theft Auto 6 is probably going to land, which is $100 games. And I think that's going to break something. I don't know how, and I don't know in what way, but I do think it's going to break something. But the main thing is, I think the console's solid. I think the console price is on the borderline of what's acceptable, especially with tie-in prices lowering the price of an $80 game to $50. That's probably by design to get people like me excited, because I fucking love Mario Kart. Especially now that this new one's open world. But basically, it's like, I think the pricing in general has kind of shown that it's like off-putting to like the average consumer. Like, there's a lot of complaints about the pricing, not just the games like that people like you and me will look at and say like that's insane, but also the somewhat reasonable console price, right? So yeah. I don't know how they're going to handle it. There was a lot of like since the announcement, obviously there's been stuff going on, real world politics with like tariffs and country shit. Nintendo has actually taken down pre-orders for the US market.
Yeah, I'm sure people are having a fucking field day with that one.
People are. The one thing I'll say on that is like all the people who need to be at the table to negotiate this are there already, so you don't really need to worry about that. And I don't think the price is going to go up. So I think everybody's just, you know, that's a whole political thing. I will say something that's scummy is that I think they're trying to cater to the Japanese market, where, like, obviously we've talked, the Japanese market's a little bit smaller, it's harder to net. The Japanese version of the Switch is region locked. Like, you can, like, if you buy it, you need to pay extra for different voices because it's like $100 cheaper.
Huh.
So basically what this all boils down to is that Nintendo pricing already had that issue of never depreciating in value, but now they're just all over the place. Like, there's no consistent pricing structure in their video games, and they're going to need to nail that down. And I think, unfortunately, what that's going to translate to is them going to be doing $80 games or maybe even higher before anyone else does. So I think from an on-paper standpoint of what they're offering, everything seems solid, but as far as how they're offering it, it's kind of nightmarish. But this is one of the downsides of having, you know, none of the consoles in the space really competing. Because, like, the only arguments I'm hearing online is, like, people are, like, they're just taking pot shots at Sony, and it's like, I'm just like, guys, all of this sucks. Xbox isn't playing, Sony's been screwing people over, and Nintendo is pretending like they're like some hurting company that needs the money with variable pricing. Like this is just bad. But as far as like on paper, they nailed that part of it. So there's that.
Yeah. I mean, it's still gonna sell like complete hotcakes. So
I think it has the potential. Like people are saying, like there is enough upswell from normal people where I could see them. Like once again, I kind of said this before with Marathon, where it's like there is a net negative out there, whether or not it's noticeable. I think that they're going to do respectable numbers, right, globally. I just think that's the case. Just because number one, it's a Nintendo product. Number two, like you mentioned, like if I want a portable console, I would just get a Steam Deck, right? That's not an option everywhere. That's like United States, Europe, Japan.
That's fair.
I think Japan just got it actually. So that kind of like portable gaming option isn't an option for everybody. So that like half of that enthusiast bias is like gone in some regions. And the other aspect of it is
that's a good point.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is going to be a global product. It's going to be it's the only one competing with first-party software, and it's going to have that console aspect where it's like you put the game in, you expect it to run, and it runs. Some people don't want to mess around with the PC. Like all the stuff we've talked about with consoles is going to come to a head here. It's just like all the downsides come from industry and market issues.
Yeah,
just how it is.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. I do ultimately think they are going to lose some people. Not enough to. It's not going to be like a flop like the Wii U, but like they're going to need to grant some kind of concessions, or they're going to need to streamline this pricing thing for at least the video games. Because while you can gin up a lot of support and like say like, oh well, it's not like Nintendo doing this. It's politics and trade war stuff. Like you can only stretch that so far, especially when those things are going to be resolved like overnight, pretty much. So
is it coming out in May or June?
Oh fuck, June I think. I think it comes out.
Yeah,
in June.
I think it's June also.
Yeah, so they have 2 months to I think 2 months to the day, or off by 1 day to do what they need to in order to market this better. And I don't know how much like Nintendo's not a company to give leeway, so who knows what that translates to for them. So I guess we'll see what happens. But overall, hardware and software look sound. It's just a matter of selling it the right way, because are you willing to sell?
Which I'm sure Nintendo will figure out.
Yeah, it's a matter of how much they're willing to give, because like I said, while it's not like they're not in dire straits, that's just not how it is. They are in a situation where they could potentially see sluggish sales, and I don't know if they're going to be okay with that or not, just based on the fact that I think the Switch is like the best-selling console. I know Sony keeps finding numbers where they keep pushing the PlayStation 2 above the Switch. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're finding those PlayStation 2 numbers this many years out, but the end result is they gotta it's just a matter of whether they're okay with decent sales or if they want to maximize their profits, which the ball's in their court there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's right around the corner, so it's going to be very interesting once June rolls around to see how the Switch 2 performs. I mean, I think it's going to sell like crazy, be sold out for weeks at a time. But they got 2 months to figure out that pricing, so see what happens. I'm good. I got nothing else.
Yeah, I think that's all. I still have plenty to talk about next week, so you'll get your weekly fill of rants next week too. But I wanted to dedicate enough. I wanted to dedicate the proper amount of time for the Switch 2, at least from a reaction standpoint. But yeah, we'll see what happens next.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was episode 50 of the Pregame Network podcast. For anybody out there listening, we really appreciate it, and we will be back next week for more fun and games and gaming news. So on that note, we'll see everyone later. Bye.
Bye.